Ipsos polling exclusively for Global News finds nearly 3 in 4 Canadians, 72%, feel optimistic about the year ahead. 6 in 10, 61%, are optimistic their family will be in a better position post-COVID than it was prior to the pandemic. But with the optimism comes some hesitation. A majority say they're unlikely to do the following things, even if allowed in the first half of the year. 76% say they wouldn't attend a sporting event, 73% say they won't travel outside the country, and 60% would avoid going to a movie theatre. When it comes to what Canadians would consider doing, 74% say they'd shop in a mall, and 68% would eat in a restaurant.
Well, every poll we do these days shows that the issue that most dominates the public's concerns is dealing with the COVID issue. They realize that everything in their lives is dependent on whether or not they get this under control, and not just their health, but their social lives, their economic lives. Every way of re-engaging with what they would describe as normal is contingent upon us getting COVID under control. If you're an optimist about it, across the board, you see 2021 as just, sunshine and roses. If you're on the other side of it, you have deep skepticism about our ability to get back on track. Yeah, they're getting the idea that just as the Prime Minister has been communicating, that we're going to have to be patient about all of this. The question that really remains as we get into the first half of next year is how willing people are to be patient, particularly when they take a look at places that they know well, such as the United States, and how they're dealing with vaccine distribution, and whether or not they're able to get themselves back on track. That will set a certain number of conditions and expectations for what Canadians will think about how we should be going through our recovery. And if we're trailing the United States by a significant degree, it could get testy for the governments. And we were seeing a lot of this back when things seemed to be getting better in the latter part of the summer and the early part of the fall, when there was more of a conversation about how we're going to get people re-engaged with their previous activities. And what we saw at that time was it was really contingent upon a couple of things. One of them was they could actually see what the experience was going to be like, and for them it was going to be worth it to take the risk. And the most important element in being comfortable with taking the risk was feeling that they could control their own circumstances. It wasn't whether the movie theater could control circumstances. It was whether or not they could control their own personal circumstances and what they anticipated would be the not necessarily appropriate behavior by other people who were going to be in that same environment. So there's a pattern in terms of behavior science as to what people need to see in order to re-engage. And right now, for many of the things like rock concerts and big collective environments, they're just not feeling that it's worth it to go out and experience it in terms of the risk that they would have to assume, and they don't see how they would be able to control their own health and safety in that environment. And this is going to be the big challenge for all of those industries that are so reliant on basically crowd participation.